going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indy Wrestling Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Heath Mullican, joined by Nick McDaniel. Nick, how are you this fine Tuesday?
Doing good. Hit a couple shows this weekend. Spent some time with the family, but we'll get into how the evening went yesterday. Saw a great show, but lots to talk about with the new restructured format a little bit today.
Yes, so this is the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast, and we will be discussing what just happened, and we're also going back to talk about the shows upcoming this weekend. So this is your one-stop shop for all your indie wrestling talk, especially in the state of Georgia. And if you want to go even further behind the scenes and get even deeper, make sure you go to patreon.com/tappedoutpod. And you can become a member there. We are constantly releasing new content. That's the word I'm trying to think of. My brain kind of froze there. You can also subscribe on YouTube. That's where you can always find the show. Tappedoutpod.com takes you right to our YouTube page. Hit that thumb, hit that bell, get all the notifications. We don't do the YouTube memberships anymore. That's all on Patreon. And you never know when I might be going to the gym and record something. We've been releasing a lot of things and always looking for ways to add value to our listeners.
And when things go haywire at shows, we put the videos up so all of our Patreon members see them before anybody else. So the video we're going to discuss later, I mean, think about it. That thing went up on Tuesday morning, and the rest of the world's not going to see it. Non-Patreon people won't see it till Wednesday. So,
Yeah, so you can stay ahead of the game. As a matter of fact, you could start your own indie wrestling podcast, become our Patreon, get all the news first, and release it if you wanted to ahead of time. I don't recommend you do that, but if you just had it out for us, you could do that. One young man that does not have it out for us is a young man I would say we're all in on, fully invested. If he were a stock, I would put it all on this man. It's Mike Cunningham, and he is this week's guest on This or That.
What's going on, everybody? We are joined for this edition of This or That with Cowboy Mike Cunningham, a young wrestler. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's such an honor to be on the show. You guys do your thing, and it's great to be here. So thank you for having me.
Well, it was great. Finally got to see you work tonight, and great job. Here we go. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Night owl?
My girlfriend hates it. I'm a night owl.
What are your sleeping hours?
Unfortunately, 12 to 2 a.m. is my sweet spot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, where I go to sleep, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
It's not the best.
All right, would you rather skydive or bungee jump?
Ooh, I've never been skydiving, would want to do that.
Have you bungee jumped?
Can't recall.
Dude,
Can't recall.
You hadn't been wrestling long enough to be losing memories. Okay, I know as a wrestler you are traveling a lot in a car. If you were going on a fun trip, would you rather do a train or a plane?
I'm going to go plane just because it would go by quicker, but trains can be more comfortable for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're getting into cooler weather.
Okay.
Hoodie or sweater?
Hoodie.
Hoodie?
Unless you're trying to impress a nice lady, then you go sweater.
Then you go sweater. That's right. All right, here we go. This is kind of a movie question. Could be a book question. Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Oh, you guys are going to hate me. Never read either.
Have you watched any of the movies? I mean, it's okay.
This is going to bury me.
No. Don't bury this young man. Hey, this young man has made something of his life while the rest of you are sitting in your mama's basement. Anyway,
I'm friends with anyone who's watched the movies. I just haven't partaked, and maybe that's on me.
No. Don't sell yourself short. You've been making stuff happen. Would you rather have, let's say you're out with your girlfriend, city skyline or a starry night?
I'm going to go Starry Night.
Oh, yeah.
I like the nature.
Are you, when you're having fun, are you spontaneous or are you a planner?
Spontaneous, but it depends the situation, but I definitely like to live life more spontaneously.
Here we go. Last one.
Okay.
Would you rather have success or happiness?
I think you got to go happiness, because at the end of the day, when you die, like, you can have all the success in the world, but you didn't have a fulfilling life. So
That is an excellent answer. He is not only a cowboy, he is a philosopher. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you, follow your career on social media, and support you.
fantastic. Well, you can find me on Instagram. It's Mike Cunningham, but the I is a number 1. I'm public, so feel free to follow if you want to reach out and ask any questions. I am the main man, and you can find me right there. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
He's got one of the best drop kicks in wrestling. Don't just take my word for it. Buy a ticket, come out, support these local wrestlers, and maybe we'll see you at the matches.
So, like I said, just a great, fun young man to hang around with, and he's just in his first few months of wrestling. You know, you've seen a couple of his first dozen matches or so, and just a guy we think a lot of. And so, if you're out there, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, you can check Mike out. And again, barn burners, baby, barn burners. We're all in on the barn burners.
There was a barn burner conversation last night. Mike was not at the Nightmare Show last night, but there was a conversation when neither young man who want to be in that team was there. There was still conversations about the barn burners. How crazy is that?
That's pretty cool. Speaking of barn burners, there were some barn burners this weekend. Let's jump right into this week's Indy Rewind. This is the part of the show when we talk about the independent wrestling shows that happen in Georgia in the region over the weekend. First stop, Canton, Georgia, Southern Honor Wrestling. A big show, as it's the first show since Gary Lamb has walked away from Southern Honor Wrestling. And Gunnar Miller and Matt Griffin were definitely there, not just to revel in that fact, but as you were telling me off air, Gunnar Miller almost trying to prove a point that Gunnar's not the bad guy in this situation.
He was proving a PowerPoint is what it was. It seemed like, him. So you're right. Matt Griffin is absolutely eating up the fact, if you follow him on social media, the fact that he look, it's his words. I'm not saying this is exactly that, but he told me he has rid Georgia of wrestling of Gary Lamb. And that's a huge coup for him. He thinks that's, I don't know what he thinks, but that's just, it's a big win for him. But you're right. Gunnar Miller's point was Gary Lamb's nothing more than an egocentric, glory hog who was always taking everybody else's spotlight from him. That he was just it was all about Gary. It was like, he went through a cycle of pictures where he said, here's Gary doing it. Here's Gary doing it. We always talk about the villains in the story, right? The most dangerous villain is a guy who believes he's right.
Yes.
And clearly Gunnar Miller believes he's right. By the way, I also say nobody's the villain in their version of the story either. So take that for what she is. Because if anybody right now is if somebody's fitting the bill of the villain, I know he probably doesn't think so, but Matt Griffin is the villain of Georgia wrestling right now. Would you not agree with that statement?
Oh, 1,000%. Now, Nathan Mowry came out, obviously having Gary's back. Match was made. Gunnar Miller wins the match, and then they attack Nathan Mowry with the belt. And then Kevin Ryan, maybe a little bit unexpectedly, I know he's had problems with Matt Griffin and Forever Pro Wrestling, but it seems like people at this point are saying, you know what, Gunnar, you're wrong, and we're going to kind of take up for Gary while he's not here to defend himself.
Nathan's got long history. People don't understand, like Southern Honor was founded by Nathan, Gary, and Dylan.
Yes.
So there's that history there. He's like, he's always going to be a Gary Lamb person like that. He's always going to defend Gary Lamb, and he paid the price for it. He stood his ground. He lost the match, But when they took the belt to Nathan, I mean, it was absolutely brutal. And it very much a warning sign, by the way, that the lengths that they'll go to, I mean, you just had to see the welts. And when he pulled the shirt up and he just whipped him, there were welts across Nathan's back. I had a opportunity to catch up with him after the show, and it just looked absolutely brutal. Yeah.
This was a loaded show. We won't do this for all the shows, but like I said, this was a loaded show. You had Alex Kane getting a win over CB Suave, and then he got into it with CT Keys, who also got into it with his tag team partner Nick Halen after they defeated Kyle Matthews and Aaron Dallas. So CT Keys, something's under his skin because he's trying to fight everybody.
Well, first and foremost, tip your cap to CB Suave hanging toe-to-toe with a former, MLW champion. I mean,
yeah.
Look, I get it. I predicted Alex Kane in the win. That was no disrespect to CB Suave. It's all the respect in the world to Alex Kane. But, yeah, then as he's walking out, some people said, CT accidentally bumped into Alex Kane. Not from my viewpoint. He kind of made that shoulder, like as he passed him, seemed like it slung out there pretty wide to make sure he got his point across. But then, look, they picked up a win. Him and Nick Halen picked up a win. He wasn't real happy in the manner that he felt like Nick kind of took the spotlight and took the pin from him. Look, all's not right in the in the end game. There's been tensions building up along the way. Clearly, they better do something. My personal opinion here, they need to figure out something to make CT Keys happy, because that is not a dude that you want unhappy and then to fight and come out against you. So they need to get that back focused and under control, because that's a young man that's he's.
You had Grayson Pierce, who continues to make a name for himself in Southern Honor, getting a win over another young up-and-coming talent in Jay Lewis, but it was Owen Knight kind of getting involved. He was on commentary for this match, but he and Jay Lucas had a disagreement, I guess, after the match. So who knows what's next for Owen Knight in that situation.
I don't do this often. Hold on. I want to pause here, and I promised you, like, hey, I'm not going to make this run long. I'm going to end up running this long. So last week when we talked about this card, I threw down a challenge. I said these two young men had an opportunity to go out there and impress everybody. I've seen both of these young men on other shows. Prior to that, I've seen their work, and I thought, hey, we're going to find out, because here's the thing. They were in a situation where they had everything to gain and nothing to lose. Grayson Pierce, Jay Lucas, 1,000% lived up to the bill that I thought they would and delivered a spectacular match. I know we're at the end of 2024. 2025, my prediction is it's going to be a great year for both of these young men.
Yeah, it sounds like, Grayson Pierce is getting more and more opportunities all around Georgia. Sounds like Jay Lucas, that's all he needs as well, is just an opportunity to show what they can do. So best of luck to those two men heading into 2025. The Southern Honor Tag Team titles were on the line as the Infantry took on I believe the current Georgia Wrestling History Tag Team of the Year, the Northside Heroes. And what you described, you got a TV tag team champions taking on a good young team. And you said this was a little closer match than what you anticipated, but the Infantry did get the win in the end.
Listen, they are the Infantry for a reason. They are decorated all over. They are on TV every week. They are who they are. But when you saw this on paper, look, and I was saying, hey, that's no disrespect to the Northside Heroes. It's all the credit in the world of what I think of the Infantry. It was way closer than you would have thought, and I absolutely tip your cap to that they go out there and perform at the level that they did, the Northside Heroes, to the point that, hey, Carly Bravo invited them back in the ring, shook their hands, raised their hands, showed them some love before they parted out and left them the ring. I mean, look, if you're earning respect out here on the, but by a team like the infantry, kudos, and like I said, tip your cap to those two young men.
A little bit of I'd call this a double main event. You had Hunter James taking on Rob Killjoy. It was supposed to be Adam Priest in a three-way match to become the number one contender for the Southern Honor title. Adam Priest, unable to perform due to injury. So AJ Black is going to insert himself into this match. And out of nowhere, Alexander Lev takes out AJ Black, cuts a promo, inserts himself into the match, and a guy who is not even advertised, a guy who lost one of the biggest matches of his career to no longer be able to be faithful. And Alexander Lev, how did this happen in just a few short months, is now the number one contender for the Southern Honor Wrestling heavyweight title.
We could dive deep right here into everything, but I got a feeling we're probably going to have a conversation about Lev later in the show. But the vibes the young men that he had, again, I'm going to share some of those later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this young man's got a very bright future. We'll table that for later in the show.
In the main event, the hierarchy, Joe Black, Murder One, and Kenway took on Xander Seabolt, Grappler number 1, and Zicky Dice, who was the honorary grappler. The Grappler Z is what they called him. This was the fans bring the weapons match, and there were plenty of them. This match had everything, including blood, tables, and if you have not seen the picture, fans, one of the most scary fireball. It's not even a fireball. It's just fire. Nick, you were there. You were in the building. Are there adequate words in the human language to describe what you saw in this match?
Mayhem and chaos. That's about it. Literally, that from the time of the bell hit, it just was chaos. It was outside the ring, in the ring, going through tables, like you said, fire, people jumping off walls, and it was just total madness. And lived up to, there aren't many moments where you're kind of like, okay, that was about as ECW as EC. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally the vibes that you got off of it. It was that type of environment. And, the hierarchy comes out, picking up a W when Zicky Dice inadvertently basically engulfed, Grappler 1 in flames and just left him subject, to taking that loss. And, look, where we go now, I don't know. But, I think is that clearly at this point we probably have to we turn the page on this chapter and move forward. But you never know with the grapplers and chainmail and see, are they ready to walk away, move on? We'll see.
Right now in Southern Honor, there are a lot more questions than answers. And you can check them out next month right there in Canton, Georgia. But show number 1 in the post Gary Lamb regime seemed to be a success as the fans in Canton were treated to some absolute mayhem. Speaking of mayhem, Squared Circle Action Wrestling was in Royston, Georgia. Again, they are there every Friday night. And Caleb Crocker has returned. He's earned a shot at he earned a shot at Towers Championship. But on this night, he came up. Hold on a second. I'm getting lost in my notes here. Caleb Crocker is getting his shot coming up against Tower at Santa Slam. And the question is, Caleb Crocker, who used to be on the side of Tower and Rick Page, can he overcome all that and be the one to end this reign of terror by Tower?
Listen, I'm going to stand behind my stance. I really am. I still say, unfortunately, I think the chosen one of SCA to dethrone Tower, and look, everybody's like, oh, but they're both bad guys, I don't care. I think Hunter James is still the guy. I'm gonna bang that drum that I'm like, he's probably your guy, because I think it's gonna take that gifted of an athlete to basically to end Tower's reign, and that's just the guy I'm gonna go with. But
we've also been following this story with Christian Taylor, and basically what's been happening is he has become so obsessed with not losing a match, with not getting pinned, that he keeps taking matches to the outside, where he and James Boulevard have been counted out multiple times. They've battled all around the Royston Dome. And come to find out, you had Christian Taylor, who had a psychological evaluation. And as part of that psychological evaluation, we found out he misunderstood it, which explains a lot. He thought the evaluation was he needed to be a lumberjack. But instead, now he's realized he needs to beat Boulevard in a lumberjack match. And now they have selected their lumberjacks, Grant Dooley, Cirque de Delure, and Luka Daniels, who he and Christian Taylor got into it. Luka Daniels has been out with a torn ACL. But now those guys are going to be able to have a lumberjack match. And a lumberjack in a lumberjack match, sign me up for that.
Yeah, that'll be a big one this upcoming week. Absolutely, you want to catch that one. Christian Taylor is a confused young man, but I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yes, that the Friday night championship continues to have a lot of controversy around that. You got Hunter James, Chop Top, and Kyle Phillips. You had Jacob Ashworth making his return to SCA, answering Rick Page's open challenge in a non-title match against Tower. Just so much going on, and they've got a lot coming up. We'll get to that in a little bit later. But again, SCA every Friday night, right there in Cherry Street in Royston. If you haven't been there, it's a great place to watch a wrestling show, and they got a really good snack bar. But again, the story at SCA, Tower. Who was going to take out Tower?
Yeah, without a doubt, man. That is it. I mean, it's got to be just the world revolves around Tower there at SCA, and it's, we keep coming back to, like, who's the guy? Because we're on and on. I mean, I can't remember how many days we're at now. We're probably it's crazy.
250, 260, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting close. Saturday, Bullpen Wrestling was in Temple, Georgia. Close to 450 fans. We don't talk a lot about crowd sizes anymore when we talk about shows, but Bullpen has had, since they started earlier this year, they have had impressive crowds wherever they've run.
And not only that, when you see, we see shows and we see a small number, like a smaller number than they normally run, we realize, oh wait, they're in a small building. It's a different venue. They're not always in the same venue, which again is why you need to follow Bullpen Pro Wrestling on social media. Specifically, I always say Facebook, because they put their, where they're going to be, because they run Alabama, they run Temple, they've run Villarica, they've run so they've run multiple places. So I always suggest keep it up with them. But yeah, dude, but it's because of they're on fire, man. There's so much stuff going on there. Look, you want to start at the top? Let's work our way backwards. I mean, they had the big cage match.
Yes.
And, it's Bull Buchanan, hey, look, he's literally fighting for his company.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. Against a former friend, whatever, but then it was also a guy that's it's a guy that claimed he put him out of wrestling before. I mean, it's just, and it didn't, and it's total chaos even ensues at the end of that.
You have Shane Knowles, who is there to be the gatekeeper, comes in. You're thinking, okay, he's gonna help Bull Buchanan, locks the door, and commences to beat down they join in on a beatdown on Bull Buchanan, and Knowles takes off his bullpen shirt and reveals a Peach State shirt. And for you fans that don't know, Peach State, I mean, to say that they used to run Georgia wrestling, is that pretty accurate to say?
They were it's a quintessential piece to the puzzle when we're talking about Georgia, the history of Georgia indie wrestling for sure. And look, it's also a little bit of a ghost of the past coming back. That's here at this Christmas season, the ghost of Christmas past. This is a ghost coming back to haunt Bull Buchanan as well.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean 100%. But it's literally the chaos that ensued, where they locked them out. They can't get in. Finally, Bad Company does with Frankie Valentine. They do manage to get in and save Bull. And again, another reason you want to talk is, look, I know Bull is on. He's pretty up front. He's pretty vocal. Like, he gets on their social media a couple, and he does live videos where he talks about what happened and stuff like that as well. Look, we're recording on a Tuesday. I believe tonight he's going to be doing it. So, that's another reason to follow them on social media as well, because then you can hear it straight from the man himself.
You had the Standard defeated Bad Company to become the new tag team champions. You also had the Wonder Boys, who won a match to become the number one contenders to those tag team titles. Zach Buchanan, Unmasked Super Destroyer, discovered that it was Rob Adonis, and that caught a lot of people, including me and you, off guard.
Yeah, man. Like, look, he did look familiar. We'd made comments a couple times about who was it, but there was a little tail signs that, like, after the fact, you're like, oh, with the movements and the size and the ability to move. Yeah, I mean, and it also, by the way, I mean, it's why he was so, he was such a, viable contender, there is because he was Rob Adonis. So, I mean.
Also, you can't have bullpen without a bull rope match, and it was J-Rod defeating Sean Nelson in a bull rope match is about one of the most violent matches. It's got that big old bell in the middle, and just lots of chaos. So, what's next?
Let me ask you, I want to ask you this. We'd be remiss. They have their first Bull of the Woods champion crowned.
Yes.
Cody Wyndham beats Judias. Like, had a little hand by hook, what's my old saying, by hook or by crook, he's your new champion. But, that's, you got AJ Black, Jaden Vane, the Standard there. So those titles are starting to fall into place on, guys. And like I said, the Wonder Boys obviously are going to be the number one contenders. I know we're getting closer and closer to eventually do we have their champion per se, but, Cody Wyndham quickly joining the ranks of a champion there in Bullpen. And
didn't beat some second-ranked person, beat Judias there. I think that was originally supposed to be Cruel and Judias, Cruel unable to appear. So Cody Wyndham, is that right? Is that like the number one right place, right time story of the year?
Has to be, right? I mean, look, you when the opportunity knocks, you got to jump on it and seize the opportunity. A month prior, you're not even in the match, and now you're that champion.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if bullpen is around for another year or 20 years. Your name will always be at the top of that list of their champions. So, I'm not saying he didn't have some help, but it was definitely a shocking title win. Speaking of shocking title wins, holy cow! Viral Pro Wrestling. I guess the story of the weekend is unexpected people winning championships. The story of the weekend, Drew Hood had put his career on the line. in Viral. He'd been stripped of the Outbreak title. More on that in a second. Drew Hood puts his career on the line against Big Ben Bishop. However, makes a caveat that if he beats Bishop, he gets a title shot he can cash in anytime. Drew Hood won that match, wasted no time in cashing in as Preston Vance and John Davis were wrestling. Drew Hood cashed in, and Drew Hood, I remember you sent me the graphic. I'm like, how is Drew Hood the champion? That's how he's the champion. He cashed in, beat John Davis, and is now the new Viral Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion.
We just talked about opportunity. When opportunity knocks, you got to jump on it. Here's another example of from the weekend. That might be the theme of the weekend. Like the guys that took an opportunity and made the most of it. Like you said, he on one hand he was literally a loss away from being gone, and he wins. And look, but again, win's a win. Like he got a win over Big Ben Bishop, who we think the world of.
Yes.
And not only that, then he seized that, took advantage of that opportunity, and then he became, he cashes in and becomes. Think about in the record books, Drew Hood essentially defeated John Davis to become the Viral Pro champion.
I think I've said on this podcast and others, John Davis is one of my favorite wrestlers. Just one of the most believable wrestlers. He had a run in PWX when I was going to a lot of their shows. Just fun to watch, very believable. And so to get a win over him, to take the title from him is a pretty big deal. Speaking of taking titles, Billy Brash won a 7-way scramble match to become the new Outbreak champion. That makes Billy Brash, he's been a tag team champion there, now an Outbreak champion. Somebody who was a part of that match, Alexander Lev, inserted himself after Cody Fluffman defeated Lev's tag team partner Jackson Drake. Lev and Drake proceeded to physically steal the VPW tag team titles, and I have to believe that Buff and Fluff are going to have an appointment with the kids coming up sooner or later.
That will be, look, the kids, Lev and Drake are phenomenal young tag team. I don't know that anybody entertains us more than Buff and Fluff on a regular basis, right? I'm curious to see, for one, does Cody Fluffman miss any time because of this, because of the beatdown? Because he had to be checked on post-match. So that's kind of, we're going to see down the road. But, I got a feeling that Sean Legacy and Cody Fluffman will probably, I think it's February 8th maybe, I'm guessing on the date there, are probably going to look to exact a little revenge for that situation.
Yes. I don't want to lose this in the midst of a full and sometimes chaotic weekend, that two of this region's best over the last 15 years, John Schuyler and Slim J. I don't know if these two guys have ever faced off one-on-one. I'm sure they would have had to at some point. But John Schuyler, TNA superstar John Schuyler, getting a win over Slim J, that is one, when it's on IWTV, that is one I will be watching for sure.
Yeah, ran into John Schuyler at WrestleCade. Slim J's been around, obviously, in this area for a long, long time. And just two guys that I don't know at this point in their careers if they could go out there and have a bad match with anybody.
No. Yeah. And to see them, that's one of the great things about, that's one of those matches you didn't know you needed to see it, but then once you saw it, you're like, oh yeah, I need to see this match. So kudos to Viral Pro Wrestling for putting on a phenomenal card. And again, now these shows this weekend are giving us a lot more questions than answers, which I guess that is the whole point of wrestling. Speaking of lots of questions, Nerd U was up there in Commerce, Georgia. Money Mason Andrews. This is a young man coming off the success of his magazine, his top 100 list for the second year in a row. But I think he's starting to hang out with the wrong crowd. You know, you talk about peer pressure, but it looks like he's starting to be influenced by some less than savory characters, in my opinion.
One of my favorite lines from a Christmas movie may really strike home with Mason Andrews. Good kid, bad judge of character. Right out of the old Grinch there. Good kid, love him, friend of the show. But making poor choices like Luka Daniels, like, what are you doing, man? And then, Big Bad Brando's, like, just kind of associating with those groups. Sometimes success and, and money and those type of things can head us down a wrong path. Hopefully we can get him back on the straight and narrow, but as long as he's got Luka Daniels in his ear whispering, might have a problem. And we got to keep an eye on this young man and maybe reach out to him and try to get him back on the straight and narrow.
Yes. Another young man we're keeping our eyes on for different reasons is Sid Ellington, who won a gauntlet match. He had Matt Sells and Jimmy Wild in a Santa's Rules match, which meant they had to open Christmas gifts and use whatever was inside as a weapon. Matt Sells and weapons just doesn't necessarily go together. I can see him using about anything as a weapon. And then you had the Nerd U Championship, Chris Del Rey and CB Suave. We actually got a copy of this match. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. It was CB Suave coming out on top to become your new Nerd U heavyweight champion. Michael Solar, who we saw wrestle CB Suave a few weeks ago, came out to celebrate, only to attack CB Suave and claim it should have been him that got the shot against Del Rey.
One. Let's start with the one. Told you. CB Suave going in there absolutely kind of had pegged him out to be your next Nerds U champion. Big fan, obviously. Big, friend of the show, CB. We love him. Michael Solar. Of course he's mad. Of course he thought it should have been him. He always believes he should have won. He always believes he's getting, oh, I'm getting screwed. Oh, I'm getting it. It's always something. Look, he's not even saying he's aligning with those other, with that other groups. He's not saying he's into that. He's just like, it should be me. Well, Michael Solar, here's the problem. Now you woke up CB Suave. He's probably going to turn and focus all of his own attention on you. Now you just have to get, go one-on-one with him again. You already lost once to him.
That's right.
So now what's next?
And wrestlers like CB Suave, they always can rise to the occasion, but especially when there's a championship involved, CB Suave has an extra gear that I don't know that Michael Solar has, but this might be a good test to see if he does.
This could be one of those things where we always talk about the measuring stick, right? Like this could be Solar's measuring stick to say, hey, you're going to find out where you stand. CB Suave will let you know where you stand. I'm pretty sure about all that.
So make sure you keep following Nerd U there on Facebook. See when their next show is. Moving on to Sunday, AWE was back in Atlanta for their first of two shows this month, and Jaden Vane returned to join the Lost family as they maybe the upset of the weekend got a victory over the hierarchy. And is it possible that Donald Jakes has had the last laugh here?
Look, they left him laying. They left him a bloody mess. The Lost family has just come out of nowhere in AWE. They've put together a pretty look. That's the hierarchy has stood atop of AWE for as long as I can remember. This could be one of their first major threats to them when it comes to AWE. You don't like to say, because I don't like the actions of it, but you kind of have to tip your cap to Donald Jakes for pulling off what he did,
Yes.
because it's not very easy to get one over on the hierarchy with all that experience and all that talent. I mean, but literally left Kenway a bloody mess, at the hands of Alexander Lev. So yeah, you got to again, don't like the actions, but you got to give credit where credit's due when it comes to successfully doing what you claimed you were going to do.
Yeah, we've not seen the hierarchy in peril is not something we are used to. And they had a brutal weekend. And even in the match they won Friday night at Southern Honor, you kind of got to lick your wounds and count the costs. But
hey, look,
yeah,
and maybe did that contribute to their demise Sunday?
yes. And do they have to look in the mirror and say, were we smart to sign these contracts on the same weekend? Such brutality. Hakeem Young continues to make more enemies than friends in AWE. He had kind of interrupted Tristan Moody's match at the last show, and then he and Moody faced off this time. Here's one match that wasn't on my radar. Shug D and Trevor Aon had a tremendous match. You can go back and watch all of this on Facebook Live there at AWE. And they are building to Show of the Year 8, which is coming up at the end of the month. That is going to be a loaded card. Won't run down the whole card here. You just need to know the main event is Trevor Lee coming into town to challenge Carly Bravo. That's worth the price of admissions on its own. And that is one that is on my radar that I'm trying to get to. I believe that's December the 29th.
It's the Sunday, whichever one. Yes, that sounds correct. Yeah, that math works.
That's going to be a full wrestling weekend. That's going to be nice.
It is insane that like basically the New Year's Eve post Christmas, that weekend is just going to be crazy. And on that show, by the way, we just talked about the chaos of that match.
Mm-hmm.
First Blood Kenway versus Alexander Lev. I want to note that out because, again, Alexander Lev, I'm going to check mark and put a pin in it, and we'll be back to Alexander Lev at a later part of the show.
Yes. Anyway, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, the return is as advertised, and they continue to make moves and make noise and provide really, really great matches and shows there in Atlanta, Georgia. Last night, Monday Nightmares were in Watkinsville, Georgia. You and Myron were able to go to this show, and the best compliment you could pay, it was a fun show that left you wanting more. You just great show, including, I was pretty shocked by this, Jack Jameson won a Holiday Rumble to become the number one contender to the Nightmare Factory title. First of all, Jack Jameson won a match. Congratulations. But it didn't end there. He wasn't just happy with the victory.
No, he wasn't. First of all, yes, let's give credit where credit is due.
Yes.
I mean, listen, one of the things about the Monday Nightmare shows, the reason I stress to go check those out there in Watkinsville, in the Holiday Rumble, Billy Gunn, Brady Booker, Ilya Drago, Jack Jameson, give him his props, and just filled with other talents there, from the Nightmare Factory as well. So give all the credit and all the props in the world to Jack Jameson for coming out on top. But, listen, we talked a little bit about off air when I, said I thought we were done, right? Like literally, like I thought we were done with this. I was like, I guess before we go down the rabbit hole, should we show everybody what we're talking about? Or should we go? Yeah.
Yeah, let's show them what happened.
You want to talk about me getting wins? Talk about me getting this win! Biggest win of the year! #1 contender! Next Turnbuckle show, you're going to interview me live in front of everybody, Tannery Road, Buford. And we're going to talk about my big win. I'm the best here! Next champion! Next champion!
I don't know, man. So, again, kind of reiterate. So that occurred basically post he won the Holiday Rumble. And like I said, he came out. I thought we were cool. Nothing, he went to the ring. No, there was no friction. Nothing, all match, no friction. Literally doesn't happen until that happens post-match. And I tried to stress to him, if you heard me, I was like, hey, look, I thought we were done. We were done with this. Dude had an injury. I felt bad for the guy. Like, hey, he got injured. Look, we've always been positive about the guy. We're like, hey, just pick up some wins, focus, stop paying attention. This is like, dude, hey, what are we doing here? Like, and if clearly that he still has a bone to pick with us, me, I don't know what that is. But we're going to find out, I guess. December 27th, Tannery Row, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. I don't know. I haven't been reached. Look, I haven't had any contact with the powers that be there. He just screaming at me, telling me to show up there. So, of course, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll be there. I don't know what, so I don't know, man. I literally just kind of throw my hands up and was like, I thought we were done with this guy. And I'm not trying to be dismissive of the guy either. I'm just saying, I thought, clearly the guy still got some, he's still got a bone to pick with us about something.
Well, he knows that the Eternal Wrestling Record Book shows that you have a pinfall victory over him in 6-man tag team action. And I think that, I don't know. I think that's just kind of, he's got to do something mentally to get past that.
He's going to have to do something, because I've already, I've had this conversation with lots of people. I've told the family, the friend, everybody, look, it's a one and done. I'm not getting back in there. So I just have to be careful. He goaded me once. I just got to make sure he doesn't do it. I just got to keep my cut, whatever. But listen, again, Tannery Road, December 27th, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. We'll find out. We're going to find out what he wants, and we'll kind of go from there, I guess. So we'll see.
Yes, I plan on being there. If you've never been to a show, here's what I'm going to tell you, fans. Christmas is going to be over. You're going to be throwing away all your wrapping paper and trash. By then you will have gone through all your leftovers. You're going to kind of be tired of the leftovers, and you're like, hey, you know what? It's a Friday night. What are we doing? We need to go get some food. Tannery Row Ale House. You can come get some good food and watch some wrestling right there, 10 feet from the ring. It's the perfect combination. What better way to celebrate the holidays than coming out and watching some wrestling and it's always fun. And it is Tannery Row. That has become my favorite venue. Yeah, that's become my favorite venue to watch a wrestling show, I think.
No, I'm right there with you. Look, I love it. It's close to home. I like the food. I like the the environment. But like I said, let's be blunt. I mean, it's Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. I mean, we've joked about how you can see, Billy Gunn, Satnam Singh, Preston Vance, Darby Allin. I mean, we've seen them all. There at Tannery Row, with Turnbuckle, and that's kind of why. Like I said, I mean, look, the kids are going to be wound. Like you're going to need to get them out of the house. They're probably going to be driving you crazy with 2 days worth of playing with their toys and all
the
that
batteries
stuff.
are going to be dead. Yeah, you got to get them out of the house.
By the way, this show is a family, like it's a fan appreciation kind of thing.
Oh,
don't quote me on this. I believe the tickets are all $10. All
wow.
of the seats. So check them out on Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Like I said, it's you can't go wrong with the show, especially right there in Beaufort. It's right there in downtown Beaufort.
Yeah, it is going to be fantastic. Well, fans, let's jump into one of my favorite segments. Let's talk about who won the week. And this, you might be asking yourself, what does it take to win the week? Is it having a good segment? Is it having a dominant segment at a show? And this week,
Can I ask you something before we do this? Because we did agree. We did agree eventually. Yes. Yeah, we did agree. But this was tougher than I thought, like originally, because, we're going to come back to who we said, who won the week, over the weekend, because it was the whole weekend. Friday night was hard to argue with Matt Griffin's take of standing in that ring at Southern Honor and, making his case. He rid Georgia wrestling of Gary Lamb, and he's got Gunnar Miller now, and he's all of the all the stuff that he's got going on everywhere. But there's the but, right? I felt like over the stretch of the weekend, we agreed on who we came to that agreement on.
Yes. There was one person this weekend who had a good showing Friday night, Saturday, basically literally won the whole weekend. Everywhere he was at, everything he did was impactful. This is a young man that I thought was maybe starting to slip a little bit, and he has come back and reasserted perhaps a brand new dominance we haven't seen before, and that is Alexander Lev. Friday night, he's not even advertised. Walks out of Southern Honor Friday night, the number one contender to the Southern Honor Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. That was not a sentence I thought I would be saying anytime in the last 3 or 4 months, but that's where we are now. Saturday night, he's in another title match, the Outbreak title scramble match. He came up short, but later on inserts himself back into that tag team discussion, steals the tag team belts along with Jackson Drake. And then we just spent 10 minutes talking about what he did to what he and his people did to the hierarchy that no one in the history of Georgia had done before, and just asserted dominance. 3 different promotions, 3 different nights. Alexander Lev, you won the week.
Total impact player, right? All 3. Like, look, even something about winning the week. Somebody goes, well, he didn't win his match on Saturday, but he made an impact. Sometimes an impact is as much as everything. Like eventually, yes, you got to win the championships at some point. But he literally, if I told you going into the weekend, Lev's going to be the number one contender. He's going to be involved, like probably going to get a title shot at Viral for the tag team titles. And by the way, they completely took out the hierarchy in their own backyard there at AEW, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
But he did it. Again, like how he did it or not, doesn't matter. He did it. So I 100% agree. That's when we were going back and forth. I was like, oh yeah, this isn't even. This is, yeah. That was quite a run for the weekend.
I think we set a good tone a few weeks ago with our, who won the week, because we said Christian Taylor won the week, and he didn't win a match that weekend, but he was everywhere. And sometimes winning the week means you made the most of your opportunities. You won the opportunities. With Lev, just out of nowhere, dominated. He's dominating our news cycle, and that makes him our winner of the week. And if you disagree, tapthappod@gmail.com. You can tell us who you thought won the week. I already know one person who definitely disagrees with us and will probably send us a message about why we were wrong. And that's what makes wrestling great. We can disagree and we can talk about it.
Right. We can simply respond. I appreciate your opinion and your input, sir.
That's right. Let's move on to, we used to call this Making the Drives. We've renamed this segment the 5-Star Georgia Indie Guide. There'll be some shows coming up this weekend that we're going to dive a little deeper into. Some of them we're just going to tell you about where they are and how you can get to them.
So we just kind of explain the method, because like we talked about this a little bit. We've mentioned it to everybody. Like, there's 11 shows this weekend.
Yes.
If you're watching us on YouTube or listening, we're 56 minutes into the show, and we've yet to talk about the shows that are coming up. Essentially, the 5's the number. We're kind of going to give you we're not saying like we think they're the best shows of the weekend. They're like our picks of the weekend. These are 5 shows. Like, hey, we're going to try to give you a suggestion for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever.
Yeah.
A good little mix, and we're going to focus on 5 or 6. Everybody will get into the rotation. Easiest way to get into the rotation, if you're a promoter, booker, whatever, wrestlers, is send us something that can kind of sell us the show. Like, get little notes like who the card is and, what the stories are. And I'm going to have a whole conversation with promoters and stuff about this in the near future. But so we're not saying the other shows don't matter. We're going to tell you where they are, and we're going to tell you, a little highlight, but it's going to be quick blurbs. We're just going to dive deeper, 5 shows a week, just to kind of, focus on and say, hey, these are the ones this weekend that we would kind of we would cherry pick out and say, hey, go check them out.
That's right. And this weekend starts on Thursday. So if you're in the Augusta, Georgia area, Phoenix Wrestling Experience returns to Savannah River Brewing Company, 6:30 p.m. The big match, it is the PWE title on the line. It is Wade Adams, your champion, defending against Rob Killjoy in a Jingle Bell brawl. I don't know. Wade Adams in Christmas-themed matches tends to do pretty well, but this is Rob Killjoy, and who knows what's going to happen here.
Killjoy, Rob Killjoy thrives in chaos as well. So I don't know that I would say I would lean towards Wade Adams, but in this one, that's good. That would be a tough one to call just because of the 2 competitors, but we'll see.
Cody Fluffman is going to be doing an open challenge for that Southern River Brewing Company heavyweight title. Drew Hood, coming off a big win. He's trying to become the king of Augusta now that he's the Viral Pro heavyweight title. He'll be debuting. And then in one of the first matches for the new PWE tag team titles, step friends Drew Adler and Paul will be taking on Daddy-Daughter Dance. That is James and Mila Johnson. So it's going to be a full night. Phoenix Wrestling Experience. 1 year in, we were here from the beginning covering them. Kudos to them, to Cowboys James Hunter, and they're looking even to bigger and better things there in 2025.
I mean, like I also spoke to a lumberjack. He'll probably be making an appearance there as well. So again, if you're down in that Augusta, Georgia area, bell time 6:30 p.m. at the Savannah River Brewing Company Phoenix Wrestling Experience.
Action Wrestling on Friday returns to Tyrone, Georgia. You remember not too long ago, Action Wrestling had 2 title changes in one weekend. Bobby Flacco, the former champion, coming to challenge Bosby for that title. Flacco, who, if you remember, got knocked out by Warhorse. Flacco fought long and hard to become champion. Going to be trying to get it back. You got Cody Fluffman taking on Rob Killjoy. Those are two guys I don't know that they've ever squared off. They've been on the same side multiple times. Matt Sales is going to be action. Adam Priest and Darian Bingston taking on Alexander Lev and Grayson Pierce. That's going to be a great one. Also appearing on the poster, Alex Kane and returning to the States, Sean Legacy. Action Wrestling is always one of the top monthly shows. They are one of the top promotions, and it is one of the primary ways that Matt Griffin continues to exert some dominance over the state of Georgia.
So I'm not 100% sure we're going to continue the show of the week concept that we had on the other, we may, because we're going to have the 5 and we may still pick one to be. This would kind of be my pick this week if we were, so kind of keep that, this is a huge card, not just for action, but the future, for the Georgia wrestling, indie scene in general. By the way, just announced Alex Kane's opponent will be Jaden Newman.
Oh, bye.
So that card got even better, when you talk about that. I think, obviously, the big, huge question mark hanging over the show is the action title. Can Bobby Flacco recover and get that title back? Look, I know a lot of people hope so. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't know Bosby, right? They don't know him. He's an unknown to some in this area. Sometimes, just not having a scouting report on a guy is a problem. We always talk about when backup quarterbacks come in and they look great because there's no tape on them. So, I get it, and we hope that Bobby Flacco was the unfortunate victim of, on any given night, somebody can get you. Can he return the favor back to Tim Bosby and grab that title back? That's what. And listen, I my plans are to be at this show. I have every intention. I'm going to the show because that question is that important. I think in Georgia wrestling right now, to it'll drag me down to Tyrone.
And here's the big if Bobby Flacco loses this match, that's now a 2-match losing streak. And does that even put him out of the title picture moving forward?
That's why I said there's a huge question mark, because that answer is probably yes. A lot of stock is, hey, you lost, you get a rematch. If you lose the rematch, get to the back of the line and start over. That's a thing. They talk about that a lot. That's in MMA and in fight, boxing, etc. That can be the case. So he has to capitalize on this opportunity, because that could very well be, get back at the end of the line and start over again.
That's exactly right. Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling is going to be back at the Moose Lodge in McDonough, Georgia. Bell time 7:00. The usual suspects: Brady Booker, Jack Jameson, Warder, and Helica Risk. You never know who you're going to see at a Turnbuckle show, so go check them out there in McDonough, Georgia. Georgia Wrestling Federation is going to be in Macon, Georgia, featuring matches such as Crips and Elms taking on James Hunter in a grudge match. The Enterprise defending the GCW tag team titles. You got Swole and Archer Harrison facing off for the GWF title. But make sure, again, Macon, Georgia, 7:00, Georgia Wrestling Federation. Conyers, Georgia, PCW, Platinum Championship Wrestling, bell time 8:00. They're there in that new, they've just moved to Conyers this year, and it's been a pretty successful move for them. The big question is, how is PCW champion Dominic Stuckey going to react? Duncan Acevella has been attacking him, and it seems like Dominic Stuckey's kind of come to the end of his rope and deciding what he's going to do, and he's going to take a stand.
Yeah, look, a lot of people, you might find it kind of shocking that I am a fan Duncan Nacevella. Look, Duncan Mitchell, call him what you know from back in the day. We were there in the early days of his, early stages of his training, and but Dominic Stuckey's been a dude in Georgia for a while, and you're starting to see him capture more and more gold around and making an impact in a lot of these, he's kind of moved up to, to even more of these higher profile promotions and stuff. So kudos to him. I think he's doing some of his best work right now, and he's doing some, as far as capturing all these gold.
Yes. Also, Friday night, Royston, Georgia. Bell time 8:00. This is a big show. A lot of things been built into this. You got Jaden Vane and Luke De Silva finally settling their score. Triple threat for the Friday night championship. Hunter James, Chop Tot, and Kyle Phillips facing off for that one. We mentioned it earlier. Finally we're getting this lumberjack match. James Boulevard and Christian Taylor finally facing off. And then the Squared Circle Action Championship will be on the line as Tower takes on Caleb Crocker. I have an event Friday night. If it is over, if I can get to Royston by 8:15, I am going to try to get there because this is a loaded card, and there's gonna eventually Tower's gonna lose that title, and people are gonna be able to say, "Hey, I was there when Tower got knocked down," and this may be the night. I don't know. I know Rick Page is going to have something up his sleeves, but we'll see. What are your thoughts? Is this the night Tower goes down?
How many times have I said it, at this point? I know he's in the triple threat, Hunter James, Chop Top. By the way, a lot of history there. Do some research, folks. There's a lot of family history there in that match. But I just don't. I see Towers going to roll. I just think somehow, some way, Hunter James is the guy. He's my, I just think he's the guy. It's going to take. The only way I see somebody getting it beforehand is if somebody can finagle Rick Page into a triple threat or another multi-man match where Tower doesn't have to be beaten.
Right.
I think that's probably the biggest thing Rick Page has to protect his client from.
Yes, it is going to be interesting to see. And fans, you can take your kids to the mall and pay for expensive pictures with Santa Claus, or you can come down to the Royston Dome Friday night and get some free pictures with Santa Claus with your kids, and it'll be a great night of fun family entertainment. Saturday, Wrestlemerica is going to be in Forsyth, Georgia. Bell time 7:30. This is a full card. Tag titles on the line as CT Keys and Friday take on Austin Towers and Hunter James. That match, a lot of history with those four men. That's going to be a great match. Mike Payne taking on a mystery opponent in a House of Pain match where no matter what happens, win, lose, or draw, whatever, Mike Payne has announced he's retiring after this match.
Heck of a run. I mean, it's one of those, when the vets get to the end, I'm hoping it's by choice. I'm hoping it's his choice, his time, all those type of things, obviously. But I never liked the old mystery opponent thing or the surprise opening because you don't know who's going to walk through that curtain. So hopefully it's not a bad ending to, a bad time to walk away. But it always makes you nervous when you see that mystery opponent tag on that poster.
Yes, so that'll be one to keep your eye on. KJ Impala defending that Liberty Championship against Rob Killjoy. Rob Killjoy is popping up everywhere, and he could walk out this weekend with multiple titles. That'll be one to watch. Jacob Johnson taking on Bobby Moore in a Christmas wrapping paper match. Not sure what that'll be interesting to see. Northside Heroes taking on Damage Inc. Luca Daniels also there along with Michael Stevens. Lots going on. Wrestlemerica. You can watch their shows on YouTube, I believe, and keep up with all the stories. They are always doing really great things there in Forsyth. It's a bit of a drive for our crew, but get out there and support them. Also, Saturday night, Classic City Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia, Terminal West. bell time 8 o'clock, loaded show. Sean Legacy getting back to the U.S. and just jumping into the deep end, taking on Adam Priest, his tag team partner Cody Fluppin taking on Dylan McQueen. You got Rico Gonzalez and Owen Knight taking on Najicism and DJ Smoke. And then Caitlin Marie, a young lady who's made a lot of noise up in the Carolinas, is always in the conversations for Carolina's Female Wrestler of the Year, taking on Noah Vale. So Classic City, that is a promotion I have not got to go to yet. Again, we're in the busy cities and a lot of family stuff. But this would be a great one to go to if you're in the Atlanta area.
Yeah, can't wait for the holidays to be over and football season to be over and maybe get into some slower time so it's easier to make. Saturday, I will probably be on the bench because of all of the other dates we're filling in for, all the other days of the weekend. But, man, I won't lie. Now, luckily, Classic City is on IWTV.
Yes.
So we will have an opportunity to see the Sean Legacy versus Adam Priest match. That alone, I would tell you, should get you, if you're remotely around that area, that Terminal West bubble in Atlanta, get out there and see that show. I haven't even seen it, and I'm telling people it'll be worth the price of admission alone for that one single match.
That is 100% correct. Also on Saturday, New Legacy Pro in Franklin, Georgia, bell time 7 o'clock. You can check them out on Facebook. SWA in Eastonollee, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. They are doing a toy drive. You can see your typical SWA stars, Tower with Rick Page, Billy Starr, who's just come back, and Luke DeSilva will be there, along with Dynamic Dexter. You can check them out right there in Eastonollee. Make sure you take the highway. Don't go the back way like Nick did that one night. Make sure you take 85 all the way up and then take the nice 4-lane highway to the building.
Yes, 100%. If it tells you to get off early or go take it all the way up and cut straight across, it may be 2 or 3 minutes longer. Take the route.
Let me tell you, too, we talk about traveling to wrestling shows. That's also the way that I go to Royston. That's one of the best exits. That's one of the best small town exits in all of Georgia. Because you got a Whataburger, you got a Cracker. I mean, it's got everything. So great place to stop and eat. Speaking of stopping and eating, Sunday, Deep South Wrestling in Atlanta, 4 p.m. bell time, New Realm Brewing. And this is, we talk about it. Sometimes shows are a one-match show. This is a one-match show. This is a show I'm trying to figure out how to get to. This one's been building for a couple months. Skrilla versus Zilla Fatu in a match that could have far-reaching implications that we don't even realize right now.
Anyone that realizes right now. So I had a family thing, and I didn't think I was going to be able to go. But then, believe it or not, the wife was like, "No, I think we could be back before you could go."
Oh my! And
I was like I didn't see that coming because I literally have had this on my calendar. Look, we get it, but when we say a one match card, we weren't being dismissive of all of the other matches on the card. We're trying to say you want to get Nick to the show. This caught my attention. I'm like, this is what got me saying, hey, look, can I figure out how to go see this? Look, we've been fans of Skrilla's for a long time. We've been supporters of his for a long time. And we're super proud of everything he's accomplished over the last 18 months, for that matter, much less 12 months. But this is an opportunity. And this is a thing of he had an opportunity with Lexus King. He's getting an opportunity with Zilla Fatu. This whole show, if you've noticed a repeating trend, has been seizing opportunities when they're given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Skrilla's done so. He's done exactly that every opportunity that's been put in front of him. Here's another one. And like I said, we all know how these, some people go it's a one-off or whatever. These things can mean more in the big scheme of things, behind the scenes as much as they do in front of the, out in front of what the fans see. So we're super proud he's getting this opportunity. So yes, we are doing our best to make it to the show come Sunday.
It is going to be one to behold. And at Deep South, you'd never know who is going to show up and who's going to be there. Anyway, it was a full weekend last weekend. It's a very full weekend that's coming up. Make sure you get out of the house, fans, and support indie wrestling. And one way you can support indie wrestling is by supporting us, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Anytime we go to a show, you're going to get some hot takes. You're going to get behind the scenes views and some videos. We've actually figured out some things with Patreon, some new things we can do there. So be on the lookout for some more stuff. Thanks to everybody that watches this every week on YouTube. If you're not doing that, make sure you go on there, subscribe to the channel. Tappedoutpod.com will take you right to our YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up, hit that bell. Make sure you get all the notifications. But those are great ways you can support our show and show your love in independent wrestling. You can create a free account there at Patreon, gets you access to a lot of stuff that we put out for free, I believe, including the very, very full indie wrestling calendar, and also Phil Stamper's list of nationwide indie events that are everywhere.
Yeah, and like I said, you're right. We've figured out some cool things with Patreon. Our goal, I want to do some stuff in the cars coming back from some of these shows. If like we're riding back from a show, just recording our instant thoughts, uploading it. I know you do some of that, but it would be cool to do that with 2 or 3 of us in the car. That would be fun. And I did get. This is going to make for great podcasting. I'm reaching for something. I did get those mics.
Yeah,
I talked about. So something we can do some fun stuff with our phones. Like we're trying to get creative for you guys, and like I said, so we always tell you, if you're looking for stuff, is it, do you want more content with talent? Like, what do you want with content with talent? Like, what do you want? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. And I'm going to throw this at the end of the show, and I didn't even tell Heath. Tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Like, hey, should we split all this up and it's 3 shows a week versus, 3 shorter shows, versus, that type of thing, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, because we're going to kind of listen to what you guys want. Like, obviously, we're going to have to make it work with our schedules, but,
yes.
The feedback is, what we want. Like, hey, yeah, maybe just do 2 separate shows and do some fun things at the beginning, and you talk, one's a recap, one's the promotion, still do the national show, all of that kind of stuff. But I really want to do some stuff with some more talents. Like the this or that has been so well received. Maybe there's even more stuff to do, beyond that again. And that's why we always tell you, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, share your thoughts, ideas, and we will do our best to kind of do that for you.
Yes. And one of the things I'm working on now that a lot of promotions are finishing up for the year, I've been talking to Nick about taking some time over the holidays and doing some year-end review for our Patreon fans, of just saying, okay, Joe Black ends the year as the Southern Honor Heavyweight Champion. Here's the path he took over the last 12 months. Boom, boom, boom. And really just kind of seeing, were there Easter eggs hidden in February and March of different things. Just looking at different promotions, and, it is, in some places, it's award season as you look back over the body of work. And Georgia wrestling has been very fun this year, and I feel very blessed to be a part of it and cover it. And so kind of piggyback on what Nick just said, we love covering the stuff. We love talking about what happened, what's going to happen. But definitely want to listen to the fans and just say, hey, maybe there's something we're missing that you guys want to hear. And we want to continue to bring the best coverage of Georgia indie wrestling and beyond. We didn't even get into, there's some shows in the Carolinas this weekend. We didn't get into that. That would be another show, is doing non-Georgia independent shows. There's a lot of stuff to cover.
Too much. too much to cover sometimes.
But it definitely keeps us. We never have a problem filling show notes. That's for sure.
No, and they get longer and longer. And again, we post those on Patreon. So, like, I know I've got somebody who told me that basically I try to have it there by noon every time, even if we're not going to record until after, because there's somebody who always messages me wanting to know where those notes are. Like, hey, I don't see the notes yet, because they're kind of getting excited about what we're going to talk about.
You will want the show notes this week. I am looking at. I have to blow it up to 14-point font. It's 11 pages. 11 pages of notes. We did not get to all of it. Let me tell you that. Well, listen, fans, we're so grateful for your support. Thanks for listening to the Tapped In Indie Wrestling podcast. Get out there and support indie wrestling. And if you do, maybe we'll see you at the matches.